Welcome to Office Hours. Today is September 9th, and we're here to talk about SEO and pets and dogs that are very excited to be here. Well, we have a tradition to start off with success stories. And now I'm kind of putting myself in the spot to think of a success over the last week. I have a tendency to be pretty negative, so this forces me to be optimistic. Does anybody else want to jump in with a success story to start off with, take the pressure off me to think of one?
Yeah, so I did finally get my Google Data Studio set up correctly now. So I'm able to run that report and be able to show my boss and see what is actually coming out of what we've been doing. And so I ran a report basically for August, and it was great. Like, all our numbers were up, our goal completions were there, our traffic was higher. So, and really we didn't do a whole lot, you know what I mean? Like, we're still kind of new in this process and making small changes. So it was good to see that we do have an increase in traffic.
That's great. That's a great success story. I'm trying to think of a success story. Does someone else want to jump in?
Well, I had something that definitely is positive change. Had someone I was working with that had kind of been ho-hum about making changes to the website that would be not just the SEO, but just the content in general to make the site more effective for them. And I sent them their August numbers and showing them how this is how many people came to the site, and this is how many people actually went to the page that they could purchase a membership, and this is how many people actually pulled out their credit card. And we really need to have a conversation about what we can do to fix these numbers. So after showing them those numbers, they agreed that we needed to sit down and do some work, because they were not getting what they wanted at all, not from the people visiting to going to the sign up for membership page. And definitely once they got there, they were not pulling out their card. So, this is one of those times that even though it was a negative thing, it was a positive thing, because it's making them re-examine what they're doing on this website.
Great. That is good news. I love the way you approach that too. That's smart. That's awesome. I will think about the same thing you two did. I do my monthly reports for all my clients the first week of the month. So last week, one of my clients had more traffic from organic search than they've seen in 2 years. And that's by the month. So more traffic in a month than they've seen in any month in the last 2 years. So that's great, because they've been suffering from the pandemic too. They've had some issues on their site. They got hit by a Google algorithm update in the meantime. And now we're kind of back to where we were. And that's just a great recovery. And that also translated into more people contacting them for their services than they've seen in a year and a half. So that's a huge spike, not just an immediate spike. This has been gradually going on over the last few months, but still, pandemics hit them too. And it's really nice to deliver a report that says, hey, we've broke records that we haven't been able to beat for the last year and a half to 2 years. So
that's awesome.
That was good. They were glad to hear that. And they're everyone is scared right now because no one knows what's coming up down the pike, and it's nice to see a record number of people contacting their business for help. So good. Well, I didn't have any pre-prepared questions from any of you, but did anybody have a question that you wanted to discuss today that we could handle?
I
Yes,
do.
ask a question.
So we, I contacted a well-known blog, and we're doing a guest blog post for them.
Yeah.
We submitted it to them this week, so we're anticipating they post it soon. Is it beneficial for us to also post that blog on our website, or does that kind of turn into the whole like duplicate post thing and work against us?
Yeah. So I'm going to make sure that in the guest blog process, I state this explicitly.
Okay.
But yeah, you do not want to republish that.
That's what I thought.
It's a duplicate content, so Google doesn't want to serve your website if your website, that page on your website, if your website sort of has the same content as another website.
Right.
So at the worst, Google will just ignore the page on your site. At the best, I should say. Ideally, because you wrote for them,
Mm-hmm.
you will also be able to get a link from their website to yours. You don't want to link back to that because that's a trading of a link, and that's against Google's rules as well. But one of the ways that guest blogging is valuable is what you've given to them is your unique and expert opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If they get to publish that on their website, they get the traffic from it. That's what they get out of it.
Yeah.
What you get out of it is you're in front of some people that will see you and establish that, oh, wow, these people do know what they're doing. I would totally trust them with my business. And a link that comes back to your site
Right.
so they can follow that. Now, so that's the trade. If you breach that trade by republishing it on your site, you've devalued what they get out of it.
Right.
And you've not even really helped yourself.
Right.
So what it doesn't mean, however, is you couldn't, I was about to say it in a double negative way. What I would do, however, is share the post that they publish on your social media channels, right? Promote it for them. That's another advantage they get out of it, is that you are sending your visitors to their website because your social media followers are going to be interested in what you've had to say there, and that will give them some traffic and maybe help them get some exposure as well.
Right.
So by all means, share it a few times, like, share it once and then share it in case you missed it next week, and then share it in a month from now with a new headline, and go ahead, like, help them out, and definitely do that, but don't republish it.
Awesome.
Cool. Great. That's really awesome. How did you find the guest blog post?
I basically did a search for popular autism blogs, and this came up in like the top 5 was this one publication. So I reached out to I think the top 10 maybe, and this one responded back to us and said, we do accept that. We're actually looking for someone to write something on this specific topic if
Great.
that is something you would like to do. So that is what we did.
That's great. And that's a great way to do it. You found some people who want to hear about it, and that's a pretty good success rate, right? Not everyone's going to say yes.
Yeah.
So that's a huge success. Uh-oh. Well, any other questions this week? With the crickets. Let me go to something. Oh, where is that? That is, oh, here we go. Under topical link building, I'm looking through the process documents. And guest blogging opportunities. So in the Curious Ants, there is a whole process for how to do guest blogging. And the challenge here, whenever you do guest blogging, is Google how shall I say this? You can really abuse this and get in trouble with Google if you're not careful. And so it's important to follow the directions of guest blogging so that you can not get in trouble with Google, because any way of manipulating the search engine results by building links to your website would be a bad thing in how Google thinks of things. Now,
This caused Google to ban you, to ban your website.
it potentially could if you are not familiar with Google's rules on how to do link building properly.
They don't give warnings.
So they won't. So let me say it this way. If you have a Google Search Console account and you get in trouble with Google, that's how Google will tell you you're in trouble with Google. They won't warn you before you get in trouble with Google. You will just get in trouble. So it's important to make sure you understand the rules where what Google looks for in a bad link before you start this process. In the Curious Ants process, there are links to Google's actual guidelines, what they call, what do they call it? They call it link manipulation. Oh, I'm forgetting what they call it. Link manipulation. You can actually go to Google and look it up on what Google says about bad links. But it's important before you do any link building to make sure you're familiar with those rules so that you don't fall into Google's bad graces. Now, I say that to say, be careful and understand the rules, but you still at the same time have to do link building if you're going to compete in Google. Links are a fundamental part of how Google decides which websites show in the search results. So if you don't have links, Google, number one, can't discover your site. And number two, doesn't know which of the sites that talk about the same topics are the best sites. That's what Google uses links for. Now, Google does ask that you don't manipulate it, but part of marketing is making sure that people hear about your website. So make sure you do it right and familiarize yourself with Google's rules. Or like you say, in the worst case scenario, Google could potentially kick your entire site out of the Google index and nobody will see it by going to Google. Now, one of the old godfathers of link building, Eric Ward, he has since passed, but he had this mantra when it came to link building, which I think is still very valuable. And his question was, would you build the link if Google didn't exist? And what he means by that is we don't want to build links just because Google uses links to rank websites. We want to build links because it makes sense that this website would link to us. And we would want that link whether or not Google used links to rank websites. So Allie's example is a good version of that, where she found relevant websites on the topic of her business and submitted content to that website. And if that website links to her client's website, well, she would take that link because it's from another relevant website. In that sense, she's following that guideline to build the link whether or not Google used links to measure the effectiveness of websites. Now, if Allie had just done a Google search for anybody willing to take a guest blog post and submitted an article on a website that would take them from anybody, well, then that's a case of you're just building a link for Google, and that puts you into potential trouble with Google. So just bear that in mind, that Google has some strict guidelines that are acceptable. And just ask yourself, like Eric Ward used to ask us, would you build a link if Google didn't exist? And then you should be in good conditions for the link building. Lavanya, didn't I hear you were trying to do a little bit of link building a while back?
Yeah, I was, but I want to study it more before I get in trouble.
I appreciate the caution, and that's why I want to be really clear about that there are rules, and you need to be familiar with them. At the same time, I don't want you to be so scared of it that you don't take any action, because it's something we have to do. Just read through the rules, make sure you understand them, and proceed accordingly. And I think you'll be okay. It's a fine balance, right? We
Yeah,
have to do this to compete in Google, but if we do it too well, we get in
yeah.
trouble with Google.
The only link backs or links period, to my website that I have are from either sites that I'm the one that did the web building, or places where I've done a blog, and it's like, what I call my article boilerplate, who I am, this is my website, you can find more about me here. Those are the only links to my website.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that probably is pretty safe. I tend to avoid a boilerplate when it comes to just my own bio. I try to rewrite it every time just to make sure I'm not being too repetitive, but that's fine. One thing you might be careful about is having your clients' sites link back to you. A lot of web development companies will do that. And if you read Google's guidelines, that potentially could be a problem. Now, what's interesting is that I'll monitor all my competitors and see where they're getting their links to see if I can get links like that. And a lot of my competitors will add links in the footer to their site. Well, I will never get that link because they're not my client. But that might be a problem in Google's eyes. So I'd read the guidelines very carefully to make sure you are not violating those guidelines. There is an easy solution to this, which is to add what they call the nofollow attribute to a link. Are you familiar with the nofollow attribute?
Or just say that you did the site and don't actually link it to you.
That would be a very safe way to do it. You could also go into the HTML and add a rel equals quote nofollow, one word, nofollow. And that tells Google this website is not vouching for credit for the website to which that link goes. You'll notice that if you look at a blog in the comments to a blog, sometimes you can enter a link in there and it will link from your blog comment to your website.
Mm-hmm.
By default, WordPress adds the rel equals nofollow link to those links. So those Google sees and doesn't count.
Okay.
And so you can do that to those links in the footers of your client sites if you want to play it safer. But again, it's a balance. You can play safe and not get any links.
Well,
and not perform well in Google because you played it too safe.
For myself, I don't worry so much about people Googling me.
Right.
Because I'm not trying to be, at a point where I've got to go out here and hire, X number of web designers and X number of social media marketing people. And, I'm not trying to do all that.
Yeah.
We're trying to stay in this sphere of one and have some flexibility, do the things that I enjoy.
Right.
And be comfortable. You know, that's our sphere right there.
Yeah.
So the link back doesn't, just saying that I did it, that's enough. In my own portfolio, if people want to see,
Yeah.
then I can say, okay, here's things that I've done if you want to see it. But yeah,
Right.
but I'll definitely keep that in mind when I'm doing other things, because I don't want them to suffer because of links, because they are actually looking for Google traffic.
Yeah. And the other part of link building is that Google holds you responsible for the websites to which you link. So if you link to a website that Google considers a problem or a suspect website, your website could get in trouble. So for instance, that's one of the problems with being hacked, is that if you suddenly start linking to shall we say, an industry to which you don't want to link your website to, Google might hold you accountable for that. So that's why it's important to keep up with your own website security to make sure that you're not getting hacked and linked accidentally to a site that you do not want to vouch for. Link building is a tough topic. It's a dicey topic, and I bring it up to people because it's an important part of SEO, but it's kind of you got to be a little careful with it, especially when people start to realize how powerful it can be and go a little too far, and then they get into trouble. Like they'll see some email come across their thing. Hey, for $50 I can get you 100 links. Yeah, don't do that ever do that. That's a bad idea. Think of the quality of those. You guys all know how hard it is to do SEO. Think of the quality of the links that you'd get for $100. If there are 50 of them, the quality would be horrible. I'm sure you spent, Allie, more than $50 worth of your time to even write that article, right? And publish it. Like, it took a lot of time. It was worth much more than that to do. Well, any other questions, link building or otherwise?
You've really given me something to think about here with the link building, because it is a little bit more tricky than the surface. And the vouch for part is the piece that I don't think most have ever thought about. Who are you linking to? What type of, so, when you're doing search engines, a lot of times there are those places where you can, send out to all these miscellaneous search engines. And it's like, who ever heard of and who even goes to? And to me, it was never worth my time. But now thinking about it from this standpoint, do I even want my link on those pages?
That's a really good question, and that's a great way to approach the subject. I found the article on Google. I'm going to share it on my screen so we can all see it. But this is what Google calls the link scheme. So if you Google link schemes, this is where you'll find yourself. And this is where Google explicitly says what the rules are when it comes to link building. So it's worth reading this to understand. You can't buy or sell links. So if anybody wants to get money to get a link to their website, you don't want that link. Excessive link exchanges. Link to me and I'll link to you. Like if we all got together and said, let's link to each other's websites and that'll help each other because then we'll all have links. Nope, it doesn't work that way.
I was about to ask you about that because, on sites like Fiverr and other sites,
Yeah.
they sell those backlinks. And I thought something was kind of fishy about that. And so Google can shut your site down if you do something like that.
Yes, yes, it will. It will. And it's, yeah. So I think later it tells you the implications of what will happen to your site if you violate these rules. But Fiverr is probably one of the worst places to get links. You know, again, we all have a sense of how hard this SEO thing is. If someone taking $5 to do something, how good could it be? Another thing, it says large scale article marketing or guest posting campaigns with keyword rich anchor links is against the guidelines. So we talked about guest posting, and I'm recommending that as a strategy, but we have to be careful because it says large scale guest posting campaigns with keyword rich anchor text links. That's a problem. So where do we draw that line? I think the article Allie did is fine, it's safe, is reasonable. But again, you could take this too far. And what if they were to start doing this and churning this and always using the same link in the anchor text? That would be a problem. But doing it like Allie described, I think is safe. It doesn't violate this rules. Using automated programs or services to create links to your site. There are such things. These would be bad ideas. And this is kind of where we get to linking to your clients. Requiring a link as part of a term of service contract or similar arrangement without allowing a third-party content owner the choice. So if for instance, if you're a web developer and your contract is you have to link to my website, that's against Google's rules. Links should always be editorial. In other words, yeah, and that's really kind of what they're saying. Creating links that were not editorial placed or vouched for by the site owner of a page are unnatural. Links are supposed to be votes of confidence in the page to which you link. So if there's a reason why that link exists and it has nothing to do with the fact that you are being vouched for as a vote of confidence, that's not a fair link. And Google, at best, will ignore it. At worst, you would get in trouble and banned from Google. So sometimes they'll call them ads. They're not really an ad, but it's really a link. Advertorials, where you're paying for an ad and it's a blog post. It's an ad. Okay, it's called a blog post, but it's still an ad. That's against the rules. Directory or bookmark sites can be a problem. So just because you see something about submit your website to directories, that's kind of what you're saying, Anita, about submit yourself to search engines. That's against the rules. Anyway, it kind of goes on to that. And here we go. At the bottom of this paragraph, it tells us the best way to get other sites to link to yours. And the best way is to create high quality, relevant links to yours is to create unique, relevant content that can naturally gain popularity in the internet community. It's that easy. That's not easy. That's not easy.
So when Allie writes her blog post for the other site, within that blog post, she can mention her company within there and have a link to her website.
So it all depends on what the website's rules are.
Oh.
And the way I recommend you do it is save the link to your author byline. Don't put a link in the article. Put the link in the author byline and simply use your company's name. That's a very, very safe play. Because notice what Google set up here. large scale article marketing or guest posting with keyword rich anchor text links. So if you were to write a bunch of guest blog posts and you were trying to rank for best SEO company, and every one of those guest blog posts used the words best SEO company and links to your homepage, that's what we call a keyword rich link, anchor text link, because you're using the keywords for which you want to rank in the text. If you did that a lot of times, Google says that's against their rules. If you're linking to your company name, that's not a keyword rich anchor text. That is your company name anchor text. Now, what if your company name is also your keywords? What if your name of your company is best SEO company? Well, then we have to figure out how will Google interpret this. The fact is that Google is a computer program. It doesn't evaluate intentions very well. It doesn't know that you didn't mean to trick them because it can't infer that. It can see that what you're doing, but it can't infer intention. So try to convince Google that you meant well is not a good marketing strategy. Try to follow the rules the best you can. Do the link building. I mean, the fact that Google at the end of this is recommending a way to get links should tell us that it is important for us to get links to our site. We do need to do that. And this is kind of where, you know, if we are able to produce unique, relevant content that can naturally gain popularity in the internet community, if we can do that, that's great. But we can create really, really great content, but how do we get that out to the internet community? Well, that's where someone like Anita can really help us, because sometimes we need to post this content on social media so that the internet community can even see it. So when the internet community sees it, then they even have the opportunity to link to it. So that's, I think, an important part of link building. Even though the links from social media don't count in Google's algorithm, making sure you get that good content out to the people who potentially could link to it is important. That's why social media and SEO go really well together. You know, if you take the time to write good, well-researched articles for your website, I mean, you're doing better than 90% of the rest of the web, right? Good, good. But if no one is seeing it, then you're not increasing your odds for someone to want to link to that. So using social media helps get that out so that other people can see, oh, this is a really helpful resource about how to communicate with children with autism or whatever, right? It's a great resource. So if you've taken the time to build that, great, post it on social so that people can see it. And then you will attract links. And organically attracted links will never be in violation with Google. Because Google here is saying, this is how you do it. It's just not that easy.
Well, since she cannot put the blog post that she writes for the other site, since she can't put it on her site, would she be able to maybe like post it on a different social media, like Facebook or something?
Absolutely, she should. Absolutely, she should, to help get it in front of more people. So, you know, there are people following her company on social media, some of which are not just clients or customers, some of which are experts in the field. And if they see that this article that has been taken time to write quality and researched and is knowledgeable, that increases the odds that those people will want to talk about that website, that blog post. And as they talk about it, they're going to cite it and they're going to link to it. And that means that the link that she got on that website is going to be better because more people are linking to it.
Right. And like when you share it, and you know, you use, let's just say the fourth sentence in the first paragraph has a really is really catchy. So you use that as your text on the first one. And then the next time you post it, you might take a snippet of text from, I don't know, your 6th paragraph or wherever. But every time, if you use a different snippet of text, and if possible, a different photo or a different graphic, you know, you could say, you can feasibly share the same thing 5, 6 times. But if you're using a different little snippet of text and a different graphic, when it comes down the feed, it doesn't look like you're sending people to the same piece of information every time.
Yes.
And if you like tag the people, you know, whatever their Facebook page is, then when it goes down the feed, people that follow them but not necessarily follow you will see that. So, you know, and then it's like, oh, you know, so yeah, there's a lot of little tricks that you can take something that was posted someplace else and really make it work for you. And chances are they're going to be posting it to their social media and hopefully linking it to your Facebook page or to your Twitter, whatever, so that those people can know how to connect with you as well. And I'm being attacked here by my little, she wants the headphones.
He has to contribute something.
That actually made me think of a question that my colleague had, in that, because I know you said, you know, we shouldn't cross post. You shouldn't post the same thing across different platforms. So if we're posting where the actual post is different, the graphic or the description or whatever, but it links to the same thing, is that then okay? Like if I have a blog post and I post an image on Instagram that links to that blog post, and a snippet on Facebook that links to the blog post, and a quote on Twitter that links to the blog post, is that still considered cross-posting and it's bad, or it's okay because each individual content is different, it just all leads to the same place?
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's okay to do that.
Right. And like for the blog site that I work with, there's the Pinterest stuff, there's the Instagram stuff, there's the Facebook and Twitter. Now, eventually, all those images may end up on each one of them. They just don't go at the exact same time. So, you know, I could be using just for our little screenshot here, I could use David's picture on Facebook and yours on Instagram and mine on Twitter and Lavania's on Instagram, but we're all sending people to Curious Ants. And but we just don't want to put one picture on all 4 of those platforms posted at the exact same time, you know, or even like you could vary it up, like post on Facebook today and Twitter tomorrow and Instagram, you know, on Sunday, and Pinterest, you know, on Tuesday. And you know how, if just spread it out and mix it up. But yeah, as long as it doesn't look like the exact same thing, because in a lot of cases, the same people that follow you on one platform probably follow you on another one if they do multiple platforms. I know that's one of the things that's kind of funny within some of the communities, is that because you're trying to support each other, you actually are following these people on multiple platforms. So, you know, you're switching it up a little bit, even if you're taking them to the same destination, gives them a different little eyeball pop.
Right.
This reminds me of old school when I was in college before the internet's marketing, where we used to talk about those crazy car dealers who have such a shtick. And, there was one guy in Kansas City. He always had this really tacky suit and a big sunflower on his lapel, and it was obnoxious. And we're like, why on earth would you do that from a marketing strategy? And the answer from our professor was, well, you remember it, right? But then his point was, but what's his name? And no one could remember his name. He was just the obnoxious guy. And he pointed out that's because you haven't seen it enough. You have to see something 3 to 5 times to remember it. Now, when you consider that the Facebook or Twitter's algorithms don't allow you to see every time someone posts something, maybe we should be posting our content more than just once and walking away, because that might increase the opportunity for people to see us. Because again, it takes 3 to 5 times before it registers with somebody. Now, Anita, you might have an opinion on this, because from what I understand, the actual algorithm might weed out that if we just keep repeating the same content 3 to 4 or 5 times.
Well, I'm sitting here laughing because I'm like, David hangs out with Aisha. David hangs out with Aisha.
I do.
Because when she'll be like, okay, so we need to post more times a day. And I'm going, more, more. But it is true that and as you get new people following you, they're not necessarily going to go back through everything you've posted down your timeline for 6 months. So that thing that you've already posted
did we lose you, Anita?
3 times.
I see your microphone moving, but
Can you hear me?
No, did I lose?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Maybe it's.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh,
David?
oh, there I am.
Okay. We lost you, I think.
Yeah, you lost me. It said my internet was unstable. Sorry about that. I must have interrupted you. Please continue.
No problem. But somebody that's just starting to follow you isn't going to go back and look at everything you've posted the last how many ever, so it's all brand new content to them. And when you present things a different way to somebody that has seen it, but may haven't seen it in a while, it's new to them as well. So, and the other thing is, if you see the people you engage with. So if you're not engaging with someone, chances are you're not going to see what they're posting. You're only going to see the people that you actually like or comment. Those are the people you're going to see. And so that's why a lot of people think Facebook limits what they see, but it kind of does based on you're telling me you're interested in these groups and these pages and these people. You might have, 600 friends or 1,000 friends or whatever, but chances are you're not interacting with that many people on a daily or even weekly basis.
I have a little process that I have not written down for Curious Ants that if you feel it's valuable to you, I will write it down for you. But the idea is I have, every time I publish something on a blog, especially a WordPress site, it automatically adds it to what's called the RSS feed. If you know what an RSS feed is, it's just a way to syndicate content. Well, I have set up a process with if this then that, ifttt.com, where every time I post something, it publishes it into a Google spreadsheet. So I have a Google spreadsheet listing every blog post I've ever written. Well, I've written in my blog for sometimes years. So that spreadsheet is full of hundreds of blog posts. And as I write more, it automatically keeps adding them to the end of that spreadsheet. Well, every once in a while, I will go through and download that spreadsheet, rewrite the title of the post, and then submit it through Hootsuite as a list of posts to schedule out over a period of time. So what happens is these posts just trickle out. And what I usually will do is say, okay, I want this to be scheduled, every 13 hours. And so every 13 hours, it'll post a new one. And it just goes down the list and posts a new one. And so that means people who haven't previously seen the content, maybe, like Anita was talking, will now see it. And then every couple months, that runs out of content. And I go and download the list again out of Google Sheets. And it's added new stuff since then because I've written more blog posts, and I just send that in to Hootsuite, writing unique titles for each of them again and publishing it again. That's how I start syndicating out stuff. But it doesn't do is exactly what Anita was talking about, which is actually speaking with people on social media, right? This is a way of, I almost call it, for lack of a better word, vomiting content. But what I found is that people still see it and they'll interact with me. Well, okay, great. Then I'll interact with them. But this is not a real social media strategy, right? This is getting my content out there in front of more eyes, but it's not a real social media strategy. But if you're interested, I can write out this process if you think something like that would be helpful to you.
And you know what would be, even for you, David, would be even more helpful? I mean, Hootsuite is wonderful at what it does, and it has probably the best as far as analytics of any of the scheduling software. But there are a lot of others out there now that actually you can say, I want this to run 2 times, and I want this one to run 3 times, and let you vary. When this one posts, use this snippet of text, and then when it runs again, use that snippet of text. And when you finish, you might have, a month, 2 months, 6 months worth of content, because I'm quite sure you have a lot of blog posts. And if it just automatically recycled it for you without you having to reschedule, that would even, be more of your time you're not spending on it.
What is the tool, your preferred tool, Anita?
Well, right now I'm kind of looking at a few options. I've been using SmarterCube for a long time, but I'm finding that there are some of the schedulers that now have the ability to post to Instagram from desktop, rather than sending the notification to your phone and then you're having to use, the app on your phone to actually do Instagram.
Yeah, I've found it very annoying.
Yeah, and Hootsuite does have that one, but I'm like, yeah, I love, but do I want to give up my evergreen content abilities and my, ability to say, okay, this post belongs in this category,
right? And
just load it in that category and not necessarily have to say, I want it to post on Tuesday at 9 a.m. Just already have, I want this category to post it in these spaces. And with SmarterQ and Meet Edgar, those two, I know you basically set up a plan, if you want, if you're doing articles, you may have articles post 3 times a week in these slots, and you basically build out how you want the content to flow. And then as you put your actual content in, these things are articles, and these are new, where I'm in the news, and this is, I don't know, blog posts, or, however you want to branch everything out, then you just let it do its thing. And you've already told it to post this one just once, and this one 3 times, and this one 6 times, and you've got all your picture variations and everything in there. So it's almost like the dude from Ronco, set it and forget it.
Yeah.
You just kind of, and I've been looking at Meet Edgar really hard here the last few days, uh, because I was looking at an alternative that allowed the posting from Instagram. Unfortunately, that's not one they do. But what they do that I have found to be very helpful is that you can say, do not, yes, I want this to repeat, but don't repeat it after this day. So if you're trying to promote a particular event, you don't have to remember to go in and pull that out. The post itself will automatically auto expire at a particular time. Now,
Sorry, I just had
Hootsuite,
to
your
hop off.
favorite one, does have the auto posting to Instagram. And so that's why I'm even going, is that getting rid of that annoyance to me worth having to sit there and do what for me would be a lot of extra work with, having to actual schedule individual posts the way it wants you to do so. But right now I'm using SmarterQueue. It's very similar to Meet Edgar. I put in my categories, I set up, how I want stuff to post and let it do its thing until, how many ever times I told it to do it expires.
Yeah.
I just got to hop off because I have another call now.
Oh, okay. Nice to see you, Allie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anita, can I ask a favor? As you research these different things, can you keep us in the loop of what you're learning and what you see?
Okay,
I'd
absolutely.
love to hear your thought process as you review these. I'm definitely going to look at SmarterQueue because I think I agree. I'm seeing some limitations with Hootsuite. So thank you for that suggestion. But as you
I've heard of that.
I'd love to hear it.
You're using that, Anita?
I'm not using it right now
Oh,
because it is, for me, would be very labor intensive. I would basically have to create kind of what David has, like something in a spreadsheet and load it in.
mhm.
But you literally with it have to say, I want this post to post at 9 a.m. on Monday, and I want this post to post at 10 a.m. on Monday, or, whatever the frequency like David does. The ones that I favor, you set up when you want things to post in general based on the type of content it is, and just say this post goes into this category, and you just load in your content. You don't necessarily have to worry about scheduling it because the program is just going down, basically down through the list, like David's spreadsheet, going, okay, this is the next one up,
Mhm.
and for me, that's easier. It also lets me, while I'm in there on that one post, if I want to post, 4 different variations leading to the same um, URL, I can do all of that at one time. I don't have to make 4 separate posts. And that's another reason why, for me, Hootsuite would be so much more labor intensive.
Oh, okay. I heard of it. I just haven't looked into it.
A lot of people use it. It is one of the number one tools out there.
Mhm.
And where it's super strong is the analytics. That's where they base it, every review site that has will tell you if you need something with really strong analytics, nobody's going to give you what Hootsuite does.
Oh, okay.
We've gone a little bit long, but I really appreciate that. It was super helpful.
You're quite welcome.
No,
You're
thank
super
you.
helpful to us.
I hope so. I look forward to this every week. I still do. So I'm glad to see you both.
You on tonight, right?
Yeah, I'm going to speak at the Triad WordPress meetup tonight at 6:30. I don't know when I'm going to eat dinner. Kind of already hungry. But are you going to be there, Lavanya?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to sign in. I hope I don't forget, but I'm gonna try to sign in because I thought it was earlier, and I looked. I was like, they were supposed to have something today. It's like I wonder if he's still having the our session for today at 2:00.
Oh, yeah.
But I had to go back and look, and I was like, oh, it's at 6:30.
Okay. Well, you're so supportive. I appreciate you showing your smiling face. Thank you.
All
Well,
right, yeah.
I will talk to you soon. I hope you both have great weeks.
Okay,
Okay,
you
you
have
too.
an awesome one too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.